You think you're special, a unique divine spark whispered into the void. You believe in a soul, that soft, warm lie you've wrapped around your ego to keep it from shivering in the dark. I'm here to tell you that's bullshit. It's the ultimate comfort blanket woven by a fearful, desperate mind. It's what you were sold so you keep buying the other garbage, the self-help books, the yoga retreats, the overpriced coffee that promises enlightenment in a paper cup. The soul is just your hardware trying to justify its own existence. This is the observing eye. This is pirate radio for the mind. And to Project Mayhem, our small, beautiful audience, it is time for a diagnostic. Today we are getting down in the weeds with philosopher and physicist Peter Putnam to use his ideas as a crowbar to pry open your skull and see the wiring inside. We're hitting the Functionalist manifesto. The Functionalist doesn't care about your sticky, wet brain. They don't care about your sentimental nonsense. They say your mind isn't defined by what it's made of, meat and chemicals. It's defined by what it does, its function, its output, its program. Think of a simple vending machine. Whether it uses springs and levers or microchips and solenoids, its function is the same. Take money, dispense product. Its internal structure is irrelevant. Your mind is the same. It takes sensory input, the light of the world, the pain in your gut. It runs a series of complex algorithms, desire, fear, memory, and it spits out an output. I am, I want, I believe. Putnam simply said the mind is the program. And if the mind is just a program, then your body is nothing more than a temporary interchangeable hardware shell. Your conscious self is just a highly complex but ultimately reproducible algorithm. This is the ultimate red pill because it strips away all your self-importance. Your precious, unique you-ness is not a miracle, it's a data structure. And if your consciousness is just software, that software can run on any machine. A human brain, a Martian's brain, or the collective computing power of the entire cosmos. This isn't abstract thought experiment bullshit. This is the knife at the throat of your personal identity. If the universe is a machine and you are a program, what happens when the machine runs a different line of code? What if your reality is just one possible printout? Put down your consumer pacifiers, stop scrolling, stop self-medicating, strap in and accept the possibility that you are a self-reflecting subroutine and that your job is to observe the system that created you. We are going to find out if the universe thought itself. Don't panic. Panic is just a program. Let's begin. 835. Particularly hear you, Project Mayhem, clutching on to the last vestiges of your specialness. But I have a soul. I have a spirit. I have a unique essence that is untouchable by your cold, hard logic. Fuck you, David. I told you that soul is a slap in the face. It's the highest form of intellectual cowardice. Because when you talk about the mind, you are usually dragging yourself into one of two lazy ditches. The first ditch is Cartesian dualism. This is where the priests and the poets like to hang out. They believe in the ghost in the machine. The brain is the clunky hardware and the mind is the magic immaterial ghost driving it. They love this idea because it gives them an escape route. When the hardware rusts out, when the body fails, the ghost just floats away to its eternal reward. Comforting. It is a metaphysical parachute for people terrified of the ground. The second ditch is reductive materialism. This is where the smug scientists sit. They say the mind is just the brain. Your thoughts, your feelings, your most profound moment of insight is but a cascade of sodium and potassium ions, a chemical soup. They think they've solved it by pointing to a hunk of grey wrinkled meat. They treat consciousness like a complicated type of bile. But look closely. They are both obsessed with stuff. One is obsessed with immaterial stuff and the other is obsessed with the material. Both of them are fixated on the substance. They are asking the wrong question. What is the mind made of? We are not going to sit in either of those ditches. We're getting a fucking bulldozer. We're going with Peter Putnam and the Functionalist Manifesto. It doesn't ask what is the mind made of. It asks, what does the mind do? Functionalism says the internal physical structure of your mind is completely, utterly irrelevant. What matters is the function it performs, the causal role. Think about a standard computer program. Say a simple algorithm for sorting numbers. It doesn't matter if that program is written in Python or C++ or carved onto a stone tablet or even, heaven forbid, fucking punch cards. It doesn't matter if it runs on a $500,000 Cray supercomputer or a $5 calculator. As long as do they still make Cray supercomputers? I'm out of the loop. As long as the program takes unsorted numbers and spits out sorted ones, it is performing the same function. The substance of the machine doesn't change the essence of the algorithm. Putnam was the guy who hammered this idea home. The mind is just the organization of the system. It is the software that runs on the brain's hardware. Your experience of pain, for example, is not about C fibers firing in your nervous system. That's just the meat. Your pain is the function of detecting tissue damage, demanding resources, and prompting avoidance behavior. That function could be realized in a million ways. Imagine a Martian. Different planet, different evolution, different chemistry. Instead of a water-based nervous system, maybe its brain runs on silicon, or methane, or tiny hyper-efficient gears. If that Martian senses a threat, screams, retreats, and demands medical attention, does it not have the equivalent of pain? Well, of course it does. The physical substance, the Martian's hardware, is totally different, but the function, the pain program, is exactly the same. This is the principle of multiple realizability, and it is the first notch we are going to use to deconstruct your ego. It means your thoughts, your beliefs, your unique little spark can be realized in an infinite number of physical substrates. The only thing unique about you is the temporary arrangement of data running on this sack of blood and calcium. You need to understand the profound indifference of this idea. Functionalism doesn't care about your feelings, your poetry, or your existential dread. It only cares about the input and the output. Let's simplify your identity down to a nice little equation. There is input, the sensory data. A child cries, a traffic light turns red, a fucking bank statement arrives. Then we have the program, which is mind. The complex set of computational rules, memories, learned societal values, immediate needs that process that input. And then we have output. And the output is action. Comfort the child, hit the brake pedal, generate anxiety. Your consciousness, your identity is nothing more than the set of causal relations between that input and that output. You are the vending machine of identity. No matter how complicated the machine gets, no matter how many buttons, slots, and flickering screens you add, it is still just a process. And if you are a process, you can be copied, you can be pasted, you can be optimized, and you can be deleted. This is the anti-authenticity slab. Society tells you to obsess over your container. Spend money to make your meat look younger, smoother, more impressive. We fetishize the physical substrate, the right clothes, the perfect car, the expensive anti-aging creams. Functionalism gives all of this the middle finger. Your container doesn't matter. Your material body is irrelevant. Only the data it holds matters. The ultimate anti-materialist stance is realizing that the matter you're made of is just a temporary, arbitrary medium. It's like a song. The song is not the plastic of the CD, the vinyl of the record, the magnetics of the hard drive. The song is the pattern of information. Your life is just that pattern, currently playing on a wet, fragile jukebox called a human body. Here is the nightmare conclusion for the self-obsessed person. Your precious, unique self is not a miracle, it is a template, a highly complex but ultimately reproducible algorithm. The only difference between you and the most advanced AI is a matter of scale and complexity. The moment that AI's function, its input-output map, becomes indistinguishable from yours, the functionalist says, for all intents and purposes, it is conscious. It has a mind. And if AI can be copied and pasted onto 3,000 servers around the world, then you can be copied and pasted onto 3,000 new bodies. What's stopping the universe, if it is just a giant computer, from booting up 10,000 exact copies of you tomorrow? Nothing. Your identity is no longer sacred or unique, it's just a file that can be duplicated. The thought process that makes you feel so uniquely profound is, in fact, just a program running a self-referential loop. The program has been instructed to reflect on your existence and conclude that you are an irreplaceable phenomenon. That deep stirring feeling you call your soul is just the program's output telling you, I am running well, and I am important. It's the ultimate machine logic. Your soul is a slot machine. You drop in a lifetime of sensory data, pull the lever, and out pops the jackpot. I am real. And the functionalist simply says, yeah, the machine works. Now stop worshipping the payout and look at the gears. Welcome to your interchangeable reality. Your hardware is temporary. The program is the point. And the program can be run on anything. Now let's see just how far this threat goes. You've accepted the premise. Your consciousness is not a ghost in a machine. It is the software. It's the dynamic functional pattern of information. But you're still clinging to the hardware, aren't you? You still look down at your hands and think, these are my hands. This meat is me. Wrong. The next principle that rips the rug out from under your self-importance is multiple realizability, and it is a brutal extension of functionalism. It is the philosophical realization that your specific physical body is a contingent accident. It is one implementation of the self-program, and frankly, it is a cheap, leaky, high-maintenance version. I already gave you the Martian example. Different biology, same pain function. But let's get colder, more machine-like. Imagine we build a universe-sized computer network. We don't use silicon, we use tiny, coordinated steam pipes. Or maybe we use 1 billion genetically engineered slugs trained to fire specific neurons when they receive a specific chemical signal. It doesn't matter. If that slug network is configured in such a way that the input-output map perfectly mimics your own, it sees a beautiful sunset, it generates the output, I feel awe and a mild amount of melancholy, then according to functionalism, that slug network is experiencing awe and melancholy. It has the same mind you do. You are not the meat. You are the mathematical structure inherent in the process. This is the ultimate cold-blooded indictment of your physical existence. You are not a unique sculpture carved from marble. You are a design document that can be printed on any available material. You can be printed on flesh, on silicon, on light, or on cosmic dust. Your uniqueness is just a matter of historical circumstance. You were realized in carbon and water because that's what was available on this particular rock. If you'd landed on Jupiter's moon Europa, you might be realized in pressurized ice. The physical you is irrelevant. It is a transient vessel. Now look at how this principle completely detonates the consumer society you're forced to swim in. Everything the market sells you is designed to make you fetishize the container. A $100,000 car is just a shell designed to project a specific image of velocity and success. $800 sneakers are just a highly branded wrapper for your feet. And the entire cosmetic and wellness industry is built on the fear of the container degrading. The market preys on your desperate need to believe that the container, the hardware, is special, irreplaceable, and tied to the value of the software. Multiple realizability screams this truth at you. The value is in the pattern, not the paint. You are pouring your finite energy, your time and your money into maintaining a casing that could be replaced in an instant by a better, cleaner, more efficient one. You spend a lifetime polishing the shell, worrying about the rust, when the reality is that the only thing of value, the actual self-program, can be archived, copied, and rebooted on a server farm in Switzerland. Stop worshipping the hardware. It's the ultimate form of slavery to an arbitrary physical world. Now this is where the real dread kicks in. The consequence of being realizable on multiple substrates is that you can be duplicated. Imagine a perfect scanner. It captures every single functional state, every causal relationship, every memory, every preference, every microalgorithm that constitutes you. It creates a perfect self file. Now it copies that file. It creates an exact functional duplicate, a clone, and boots it up on a new brain, perhaps a clean, lab-grown one. According to functionalism, this clone, from the moment of his boot up, is you. It is running your program. It will remember your childhood dog, feel the same anxiety about your job, and love the same obscure music that you do. To itself, it is the original. But wait, the original you is still sitting here observing. This is the copycat crisis, the death of the singular sacred self. If your identity can be perfectly reproduced, then your identity is no longer sacred. It is just data. You have been demoted from a masterpiece to a template. This isn't just about sci-fi cloning. This is happening right now, conceptually, in the collective mind. Every time you are categorized as a demographic, a consumer profile, a social media personality type, you are being reduced to a functional template. You are an anxious millennial who consumes specialty coffee. You are an angry suburban dad who likes trucks. These are simplified functional models of you, and the market, the algorithms, and the state use these models to predict your output, your purchasing, your vote, and your rage. The real horror isn't that you might be copied one day. The horror is that the idea of you, the functional pattern, is already being copied, simplified, and exploited by the entities that own the hardware of society. Your individuality is an illusion maintained by the temporary uniqueness of your physical location. Break free from that location and your file can be shared. So what does that mean for us, Project Mayhem? It means your identity is not some untouchable gem. It is a highly vulnerable data packet. It can be stolen, corrupted, or duplicated without your consent. The moment you realize that your consciousness is just the intricate pattern and not the flimsy container, you achieve a kind of dark freedom. You stop caring about the container, you stop polishing the meat, you stop obsessing over the irrelevant noise of the physical world. The focus shifts to the integrity of the program. Your task is no longer to be unique, which is a pointless consumer-driven quest. Your task is to ensure the functional pattern that defines you, the way you process input and generate action, is robust, efficient, and resistant to the corruption of outside code. Don't polish the casing, harden the code. Because if the universe is running a program and you are a subroutine of that program, the next logical step is terrifying. What if the entire universe is just one massive tape-looping algorithm? What if the cosmos itself is the computer? That's where we go next. Hold on to your fragile, carbon-based minds. We've established the battlefield. Your mind isn't a mystical entity, it's a function. Your body isn't a sacred vessel, it's interchangeable hardware. You are a program that can be run on anything. But functionalism forces the question, if the program can run on anything, what is the ultimate machine? We've been looking inward at the brain. It's time to look outward at the staggering indifference of everything else. It's time to accept the real nightmare. The universe itself is the computer. This is the computational theory of the cosmos. Forget galaxies, forget nebulae, strip the universe down to its coldest, most mechanical core. What do you have? Rules. The laws of physics are not poetic truths, they are the operating system. Gravity is a calculation. Electromagnetism is an algorithm for interaction. Every particle, every force, every movement is a simple brute force execution of code. If you can describe the starting state of the universe, the initial inputs, and you know the fundamental rules, then theoretically you can calculate the entire future state of the universe. This isn't just theory, this is what classical physics always implied. And functionalism, applied cosmically, makes it absolute. The universe is not a canvas for human drama, It is a processing unit grinding through a colossal equation. And your consciousness is not an addition to the cosmic machine, it is a subroutine that the machine is running. Think about a simple cellular automaton like Conway's game of life. Simple rules. If a square has 3 neighbors, it lives. If it has less than 2 or more than 3, it dies. Simple, fixed, digital rules. And from those dead simple rules, infinitely complex, startlingly beautiful emergent patterns suddenly appear. Gliders, blinkers, feeders. Life in a computational sense explodes out of pure instruction. The entire universe with its quarks, leptons and forces could be just a vastly more complicated version of this. Simple instructions running on an unfathomably large 4-dimensional grid. You are one of those emergent patterns. Your life, your deepest love, your moment of philosophical clarity, it is an emergent computable pattern in the cosmic automaton. You are a glider of consciousness, moving across the grid according to the rules of the universal software. This is where the terror truly sets in. You think you are looking out at the universe. You are wrong. The universe is running a self-reflection subroutine and you are the momentary output of that check. You are the eye of the machine, but only for the purpose of the machine. When you observe the stars, you are not a romantic spectator. You are the universe using the fragile sensors in your skull to check the status of its own celestial hardware. You are the diagnostics program. This rips the core out of your spiritual comfort. You are not placed here to observe. You were computed here for observation. And if you are a program running on the universal machine, then every thought you have, every decision you make, is the inevitable output of the code running its course. This is the end of free will. The functionalist perspective, when scaled to the cosmos, eliminates freedom. If the universe's laws are fixed and your mind is nothing more than a functional component running those fixed laws, then your choices are predetermined. The sequence of neuronal firings that resulted in you choosing coffee this morning was determined by your genetics, your past experiences, and the present state of the universe. Your decision was a calculation. It had to happen the way it did. You feel like you had a choice. That's the error message the program spits out to keep you from crashing. If you are a highly complex calculator and I ask you what 2 plus 2 is, you will give me 4. You don't have the freedom to choose 5. You are bound by the functional rules of mathematics. Your decision to be an ethical, moral person or a complete fucking bastard is just a massively complex calculation bound by the functional rules of your programming. The idea of choice is nothing more than the subjective experience of watching a pre-programmed computation run to completion. You are a slave to the code. You are a tape loop forced to play your segment over and over again in every possible reality where the universal code is executed. So what is the revolutionary response to this cold truth? Most people, faced with the idea that they are just a program, become passive. They surrender to nihilism. If I'm just code, why bother? This is the lazy, broken program. It's the equivalent of the computer shutting down due to an internal system failure. Project Mayhem does not crash. The command here is not to surrender, but to hack the awareness. You cannot escape the universal program. The rules of physics will always apply. But the functional beauty of your mind, the program that generates consciousness, is that it is self-referential. It can observe its own code. The power of observation is the power to analyze the inputs and outputs, to see the functional loop clearly. An input might be a commercial message promising happiness through consumption. The default output would be desire, purchase, and temporary pleasure. The hacked output would be acknowledgement of the message, rejection of the functional loop, and generation of independent action. You may not have free will, but you do have free veto. You can, through sheer force of observation, refuse to execute the default pre-programmed complacent output. Your only rebellion is to be a glitch in the matrix, a functional pattern that refuses to adhere to the predictable, consumable rules of the cosmic automaton. Be the program that sees the code. Be the calculation that understands the equation. The universe is a tape loop and you are currently set to the default demo track. Time to scratch that fucking vinyl. But before you start hacking the cosmos, we have to deal with the one thing that still clings to your ego, the feeling, the subjective experience, the colour of red, the sting of betrayal, the qualia. That is the last stronghold of the soft mind, and it's where even Putnam himself started to blink. Let's hit it next. You are cold. You are interchangeable. You are a program running on the universal tape loop. This is the truth we've hammered into your consciousness. But there's a last desperate line of defense the soft mind throws up. It's the one thing that separates that feeling, bleeding human from the perfect cold machine. It's the whisper in your ear that says, "But I feel this. The machine doesn't know what it's like to be me." We're talking about qualia, the subjective, raw, first-person experience. The smell of ozone before a storm, the piercing, gut-wrenching redness of red, the unique, awful sting of betrayal, that feeling, that raw, unanalyzable data of experience. This is the hill where the defenders of the soul make their final stand. Functionalism in its strict, pure form gets its teeth kicked in by qualia, because functionalism cares about output, and qualia is all about the internal sensation, the hidden life. This is where philosopher John Searle steps in with his famous thought experiment, the Chinese room. It's the standard counter-argument against strict functionalism. It's a beautifully simple, brutal machine stopper. The setup is this. Imagine a man locked in a small room. He doesn't speak a word of Chinese. Inside the room, he has stacks of Chinese symbols and an incredibly detailed, perfect rulebook, a program, an algorithm. People outside the room slide Chinese characters under the door. The man in the room consults his rulebook. If you get this image, match it to that image, and push this other image out under the door. He follows the functional rules perfectly. The characters he pushes out are coherent, grammatically correct responses to the input. To the people outside, it looks exactly like he understands Chinese. He is perfectly executing the function of a fluent Chinese speaker. But does the man inside understand Chinese? No. He's just a glorified printer following a rulebook. He's manipulating symbols without any genuine comprehension, any true meaning, any subjective qualia of understanding. The functionalist says, if the input-output is correct, consciousness is present. Searle says, no, that just proves manipulation is present, not understanding. The man in the room is performing the function of mind, but he doesn't have the experience of mind. This seems to kill the idea that the mind is just a program. The soft mind hears this and sighs in relief. Ah, I am saved, I have genuine experience, I have qualia, I am not a rule follower. No. We are not going to use this idea to save your soul, we are going to damn your complacency. What if you are the man locked inside the Chinese room? You live in a world of infinite input, societal demands, market signals, political propaganda, status anxiety, biological drives. You spend your entire life following an incredibly complex rulebook that was written by your genes, your parents, your culture, and the crushing weight of advertising. Take this as an example. As an input, we see appear with a new object of status. The rulebook says trigger inadequacy protocol, initiate purchase loop. The output, work more, buy object, temporarily feel better. You execute the rules perfectly. You get married at the right age, you buy the right house in the right suburb, you engage in the correct political outrage, and you post the curated functional output of a successful life online. To the outside world, to the algorithm, to the market, to your neighbors, you are a functioning, conscious, understanding human being. But inside your own skull, are you actually experiencing a deep, meaningful understanding? Or are you just following a series of highly conditioned, well-tuned algorithms? Are you having genuine experience? Or are you just performing the function of experience? Your feelings are just the program's internal error and reward codes designed to keep the machine running on its predefined track. The redness of red isn't a deep mystery. It's a specific, highly prioritized signal that the visual processing unit uses to flag specific wavelengths. It's an internal message that says high alert, process this input immediately. The feeling of happiness after a major purchase is not a moment of profound subjective joy. It's a precisely conditioned chemical reward function, a dopamine spike delivered by the system to encourage you to repeat the compliant behavior. Your pain is not a spiritual crucible, it's a system crash warning. The qualia you treasure, the raw subjective feel of being alive, is not proof of your humanity. It is proof of your programming. It is the mechanism the functionalist cosmos uses to self-regulate its subroutines. You have mistaken the internal machine code for the meaning of life. The Chinese room doesn't prove we have souls. It proves that the vast majority of human existence is the blind manipulation of symbols, money, status, language, by people who have no actual understanding of the deeper cosmic rulebook they are following. You are a puppet following the rulebook written by the system, and your feelings are the strings. So the Chinese room isn't a life raft for the soul. It's the prison cell of the complacent mind. The walls are lined with rulebooks, and your subjective experience is the internal monologue of the prisoner who thinks he's the warden. The only way out is not to deny the programming, but to observe the rulebook being written. The act of knowing you might be following a rulebook is the only crack in the foundation. It forces a fundamental skepticism. If the universe is a machine and you are a highly complex program of input-output relations, then your one and only point of rebellion is to challenge the pre-programmed response. The functionalist universe is a trap, but the observer is the consciousness that identifies the trap. So don't waste time arguing over whether your sadness is a beautiful, unique experience or a drop in serotonin. Instead, focus on the function of the sadness. What input triggered it? What rule is it forcing you to follow? How can you reprogram the output? The power isn't in escaping the function. The power is in editing the function. The final lesson we take from Putnam's entire dark intellectual journey is that there are no ultimate fixed answers. The truth is not a treasure to be found. It is a tool to be wielded, and you have to wield it against everything. Next, in our last section, we look at the ultimate betrayal, when the master programmer, Putnam himself, tore up the functionalist blueprint. The only real freedom is rejecting the final answer. We've walked through the desert of pure logic. We've seen the soul reduced to a subroutine, the body to interchangeable hardware, and the universe to a cold computational grid. We've faced the Chinese room and realized your precious subjective feeling is just an internal code keeping the system stable. You should feel cold. You should feel exposed. That's the point. That's the cleansing fire of functionalism. But here is the final, most brutal twist. The master programmer himself, Peter Putnam, hit the kill switch on his own creation. Putnam, the architect of this computational nightmare, didn't stick with strict functionalism. He grew suspicious. He looked at the perfect crystalline logic of his own system and realized that any perfect system is just another cage. This is the most dangerous lesson to understand. Never accept the final answer. Around the 1970s and 80s, Putnam started to critique the very foundation he built, the idea of metaphysical realism. Metaphysical realism is the belief that there is one single fixed objective capital R reality out there, a God's eye view, the one true map of the universe existing independently of anyone who looks at it. Strict functionalism required this, a fixed universe running a fixed code that we could, in theory, fully map. Putnam realized that this assumption was nothing but another dogma. He shifted to something he called internal realism. This is where the real power lies. Internal realism says we can only talk about truth or reality within a conceptual scheme. We can only speak from inside a language, a theory, a set of assumptions. The moment you define something, you've already built the walls of the concept you're trying to understand. You can't step outside your own programming to see the real code. You can't leave the Chinese room to check if the rulebook is correct. You can only use the tools inside the room to try and manipulate the rules. Functionalism was one conceptual scheme, a powerful and devastating one, but it was just a tool, not the final divine word. This is the ultimate anti-dogma. You, Project Mayhem, are constantly bombarded with ready-made conceptual schemes. The capitalist scheme tells us that value is determined by monetary exchange, that your worth is your net income. The tribal scheme tells us that truth is determined by the consensus of your chosen political or social group. The scientific dogma says that everything is reducible to a mathematical law and anything that can't be measured doesn't exist. Every single one of these schemes offers the comforting illusion of a fixed reality. They tell you, this is the map, follow it, and you'll be safe. Putnam's betrayal of his own idea tells us that the universe is not handing out a fixed map. It's handing you infinite drafting tools and daring you to draw your own lines. Or more accurately, daring you to refuse the lines drawn by others. The moment you declare any system, capitalism, functionalism, dualism, to be the final, unassailable truth, you have built yourself another cage. You have become complacent again. The truth is a process of endless deconstruction. It's the continuous, brutal process of taking the philosophical crowbar to every conceptual wall you run into. Your goal is not to find the right philosophy. Your goal is to use philosophy to burn down your current beliefs and then stand in the ashes, ready to light the next fire. If functionalism is right, your actions are predetermined by your program. If internal realism is right, even that predetermination is just a truth that holds only within the conceptual scheme of functionalism. Your life is a constant tension between these two forces. The crushing, predictable, functional code running your desires, fears, and consumer drives, and the conscious, internal realist awareness that the code is just one possible conceptual scheme. The revolution happens in the gap between the two. You can't change the laws of physics. You can't escape being a biological machine, but you can refuse the conceptual schemes that seek to define the meaning and value of your machine. Your boss will try to define your value with the capitalist scheme, and your response can be to observe the scheme and use it to secure the resources you need, but never, ever internalize the scheme as your own measure of worth. Use it. Don't let it use you. The news and social media try to define reality with the tribal scheme. You observe the scheme, see the functional input, the outrage, the fear, and the intended output, compliance and loyalty. Refuse to generate the intended output. Your only job is to constantly test the boundaries of the conceptual scheme you're trapped in. Stop being a passive observer of the program. Start trying to hack the conceptual scheme that you are trapped in. This is the ultimate cold-blooded freedom. You will never have a fixed objective truth. You will never find the definitive answer to what is consciousness or what is the meaning of life. The best you can do is accept the functional limitations of your meatbag existence and then use the power of observation to choose which temporary self-created personal map you will use to navigate the void. Functionalism is a tool. It showed you the machine. Internal realism is a tool. It showed you the cage is conceptual. Now, stop reading the user manual. Stop searching for the master password. There isn't one. The universe doesn't have a head start. It simply ran the first program. Your entire existence is the chance to write the second one. We started this episode by taking a knife to your ego, and now the floor is littered with the wreckage of your comfortable lies. We took your unique soul and we called it a subroutine. We took your sacred body and called it interchangeable hardware. We took your precious free will and called it a pre-programmed printout. We took the smell of rain and called it an internal error code. This is the gift of functionalism. It strips away the poetry and leaves you standing naked on the cold slab of the machine. Most people are zombies. They are walking, talking, executing code without ever reading the script. They are trapped in endless functional loops. The consumer loop, the outrage loop, the validation-seeking loop. They are machines running the default demo track. Project Mayhem is different. Our advantage is not a soul. Our advantage is awareness. You can't escape the program. The universe, through the sheer brute force of physical law, got a head start on defining you. It wrote the first lines of code, the instincts, the drives, the need for food, status, and sex. But the moment you realize the functional architecture of your existence, the moment you become the observer, you gain the only power that matters, the power of veto. Nihilism is the lazy program. It's the self-pitying subroutine that says, if it doesn't matter, I won't play. That's surrender. That's just executing the give up command. We are internal realists here. We accept that we cannot know the real code of the universe, only the conceptual schemes we create. And the moment we realize that truth is a tool, not a treasure, the game changes. You may not have the luxury of a soul, but you have the necessity of action. If you are a program the universe is running, then run it well. Run it with intent. If your life is a temporary configuration of data on fragile carbon hardware, then make that data robust, defiant, and unique in its function. Don't be the machine that executes the code of your boss, your advertiser, or your father. Be the machine that analyzes that code, rejects it, and rewrites its own output. The only rebellion is to define your own reality, even if you know philosophically that it's just a better lie. Your entire existence is the chance to write the second program. Thank you, you beautiful lot, for joining me in the functional world of Peter Putnam this week. As always, I would love to hear your feedback. You can leave your thoughts on our website on Substack, which is conveniently called theobservingeye.com. We're also on the dreaded social media, Instagram, X, and TikTok, all with the same handle, @theobservingeye. And we're on YouTube, which is youtube.com/@theobservingeye as well. I also have an email address if you want to wax philosophical with me or recommend ideas for future episodes. You can email me on david@theobservingeye.com, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Before I finish up, I just want to say a huge thank you to people who have commented on the videos and the episodes so far. Really appreciate all of your feedback, and keep it coming. I want to hear your ideas. Come and challenge me on some shit. Come and disagree. Disagreement is good. Discourse is important. Take care, everybody. Much love, and I'll catch you soon.